All right, welcome everyone. Thank you to all of you joining the RMLD and Tangent Commercial Peak Demand Response webinar. We're going to take a few minutes today. We have a great team ready to present. They're going to explain what peak demand response is, the details of the RMLD program, how you can enroll and benefit for your business. A few housekeeping things. The webinar is being recorded, as you just heard, and it will be shared with all commercial customers afterwards. If you have a question on the program and you don't want to ask it during the webinar, you can always email rebates@rmld.com. And you also can post any questions in the Q&A, and the team here will do our best to answer it quickly in line, or we will hold it for our presenters for the end of the presentation to answer live. So with that, I will quickly introduce your presenters. Amanda Tilley from Tangent Energy is going to be presenting along with Ryan Wynn from RMLD. I will hand it over to you, Amanda, to get us started.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. So some of you may be aware, but did you know that a few hours of the year can affect your utility bills? Together with Ryan from the Reading team, I'm going to introduce the PDR program and explain how it can benefit you and your facility, and of course, tell you how you can get involved. So we'll go through quick introductions. I will do an overview of the PDR program, how it can benefit you, how you can participate, and then Ryan is going to talk about how you can sign up, get more information, and take the next steps. So a quick introduction about myself. My name is Amanda Tilley, and I work at Tangent. I'm based out of Pennsylvania, and I've been in the energy industry for a little over 13 years. My focus throughout my career has been helping customers participate in programs just like PDR, and the goal is to help save on energy costs. And with me today is Ryan, so I'll let Ryan quickly introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Wynn. I'm an energy program specialist here at Reading Municipal Light Department. Some of my focus includes working on the commercial programs as well as working with our commercial customers. So I'll be a point person throughout this process.
Thanks, Ryan. So I'd like to just introduce who Tangent is. So I have been at Tangent for almost 2 years, and Tangent Energy Solutions was started in 2011. In 2022, it became part of Caterpillar. So it remains a wholly owned subsidiary, and we currently serve over 6,000 customers and 7,000 megawatts. We also work with C&I customers as well as municipals and utilities across North America. And we don't only focus on energy markets, but we also develop solar, battery storage, and generation projects across North America. And then I'd like to talk about our longstanding relationship with RMLD. So prior to my time at Tangent, the RMLD team and Tangent have been working together. They developed the PDR program together and using Tangent's software called AMP, which I'll show you in a little bit. That has enabled RMLD and its C&I customers to participate in this program together to help reduce costs and provide some rebates for the C&I customers. We also help RMLD monitor and dispatch some of their assets while we're trying to chase the peak. And we also not only help with those physical projects, but like I said, RMLD uses our web-hosted portal called AMP, and it is also available to individual customer sites that sign up for the PDR program. So we've done a lot together over the years, but our main goal is reducing that load during these peak times, which in turn keeps our costs down. And what we need to be even more successful is additional customer participation. So what does Tangent AMP do? In a nutshell, what it's helping do is monitor facilities. Like I said, each customer would have access to our software portal. It's helping to monitor utility at your facility. If you have any sort of generator, solar, or battery on your property, we could help monitor that as well. We're also predicting these peaks that we call, and I'll talk a little more about that next. And on top of that, we're trying to help maximize the benefit for the customer. So we're trying to encourage participation in programs like PDR so that not only are you helping out RMLD, but you're also seeing the financial benefit of participating. So what is PDR? So peak demand reduction or peak demand response is the program that RMLD has developed, and it calls upon customers to reduce electricity during peak times. So if we think about the hottest days when everyone has their air conditioning blasting, or the coldest days when everyone cranks their heat, that demand for energy goes up, prices can go up. And what happens is it's called a coincident peak, and we want customers to reduce their load during these peak times. Sometimes it's called demand reduction or demand response as a broader term. And like I said, customers, residences, there are some residential programs. There are also commercial industrial programs out there where folks will reduce their electricity when called upon. And I'll explain a little later some ideas as to how your facility can reduce power. So there are two terms I want to introduce to you and hopefully you can understand. And if you've never heard of ICAP or capacity, peak, or transmission, I'm going to explain a little bit more about it. So the ICAP or ISO New England coincident capacity peak is the grid's 1 hour. It's the highest 1 hour of the entire year. The load demand curve goes up, and it's that 1 hour where it is the highest of the entire year. And that can greatly affect people's electricity bills. So our goal is to capture that 1 hour per year for the capacity peak. And in a few slides, you'll see a little more information about the price difference between capacity and transmission. We also help avoid the transmission peaks, and those occur once monthly. So that would be 1 hour per month we are trying to chase. Now, as things change and weather patterns come in, we have an extreme heat wave like we had in June of this year. That's hot, hot, hot. So everyone's cranking their AC. We're going to call multiple hours to try to capture that 1 hour peak. And you'll see in a little bit too how we send out communications and give a window to try to catch that 1 hour. So throughout the year, we're participating year round as we try to capture the transmission peak. As I said, it's 1 hour per month. So on the left-hand side, you'll see the ICAP and the transmission, like I just reviewed. The ICAP is the 1 hour per year, transmission is 1 hour per month. And a little bit more about the program overall. So as I mentioned, Tangent is predicting the capacity and transmission peaks with our AMP software. So the software itself is using algorithms to understand the pattern of the grid, the weather, history, and it is helping predict when these peaks will happen. What we then do is we send a notification to the customer, and you'll see an example in a little bit via email or via text. And if you were to have a generator or battery storage at your facility, we can connect to that, Tangent AMP. We have special hardware that can connect to that and automatically dispatch that or turn that on for you during these peak times. If you don't have any sort of generation on site, like a battery or generator, there are many different ways you can manually reduce load in load reduction. So after we're sending out our notifications, a customer, you would participate by reducing your load in a pre-planned manner. We can also help you come up with some ideas on how to do that. And at the end of the year, well, it's the end of the delivery year. So actually in the spring, you would then receive a credit for your participation from that prior summer and year. So the season starts June 1st and runs through the end of May. you would receive your 2025 participation in the spring of 2026. And since transmission is a monthly thing, we're able to enroll on a rolling basis. So if you are interested in signing up today or October, we can bring you on board and still get you to participate in those other transmission peaks as well. So once you're participating and signed up, like I mentioned, you'll receive a bill credit, but you'll also receive access to AMP, where you're able to see your current utility usage as well as the reporting based on your participation in the program. So what are the benefits? Like I mentioned earlier, our goal is to help customers save money. That's one of my goals in my role as an account manager, is to help create benefit for the customer. So I mentioned that annual credit for capacity and transmission. And as an example from this past year, the rates below, you'll see the dollar amounts for capacity and transmission per kilowatt year. So what that means, and I'm not familiar with each and every one of you and how large your individual load is at your facility. But for example, if you had 100 kW that you could reduce, you could earn up to $1,800 for capacity. Or if you participate in 9 out of 12 months of transmission throughout the year, maybe you're not able to participate every time you're called upon, you would see about a $5,500 credit on your statement. So we have the financial benefit for you, and I mentioned before having access to your data in the platform, which can be an invaluable benefit as well. So you'll have access to reporting and that dashboard and the peak notifications. And the benefit for Reading, before I talk about our last piece, the benefit for Reading is by having customers, the commercial industrial customers, reduce load during peak times, it helps to keep overall costs low for residents. So we're trying to reduce the entire footprint, and engaging with customers is extremely important, and bringing programs like this to those commercial industrial customers in Reading's area. And the last thing I wanted to touch upon was the impact. So in the 2024 participation year, the program reduced 3,200 kilowatt hours of power, and that equates to a little over 1,200 pounds of carbon dioxide equivalent that was avoided because of that reduction. All right. So like I mentioned, Ryan is going to talk more about how you can sign up, what the next steps would be in working with him to get enrolled. But I wanted to show you how the notifications would look and how they work. So once you're enrolled, you would be able to receive email or text notifications, and we can sign you up based on your preference during enrollment. And on the left, you'll see an example of our email. And on the right, you'll see an example of our text messages. And you can see that there's a window. So like I mentioned, we're trying to capture these coincident peaks when the grid is peaking during that hour time frame. Like we have to catch 1 hour per year or 1 hour per month. There's a window in which we're looking to reduce. So you'll see on the left-hand side, the example is 3 to 7 p.m. with the highest probability between 5 and 6 p.m. So we're aiming for that 5 to 6 p.m. reduction, but if you can reduce longer than that, you'll have a better chance of catching that peak in case it moves. There are other commercial industrial customers that participate in programs like this. So a lot of participation, sometimes that hour might move from 5 to 6 to 4 to 5, or for some reason it goes from 89 degrees outside to 94 degrees outside in that afternoon, and people weren't expecting it. Everyone's cranking their air conditioning. So as things may shift, that's why we want to capture that larger window of participation. So you would receive an email And then you'd receive text messages as well. If it is an afternoon peak prediction, you'll get a notification before lunchtime to let you know that we think today is going to be a peak day, asking for your participation. So I talked a little earlier about how you can participate and different ways that a facility can reduce load. So you all know your facility best. If you're commercial, maybe you're limited to shifting or changing your HVAC settings, turning off lights or electronics that you're not using. If you're more in manufacturing or you're in production, you can shift your production. And if you did have a generator or battery storage on your site, you could use that as well to participate. So something interesting is that commercial buildings, obviously over half of their usage comes from lighting and HVAC. Really, you have a storefront, you want to welcome your customers and you want them to be comfortable. You're going to have your heat or your air conditioning on and lighting. So you can think about that if you're in the commercial side. I can reduce these things during that window. And then, like I mentioned earlier, if you are in manufacturing or production, most of your usage and consumption is going to come from your lines, your pumps, conveyors, and your processes within your facility. So turning off these lights, maybe if you could close up earlier. I know it's not feasible all the time. You could shift production if you were going to start a new project or a new process at 3 p.m. If shift change happens at 3 p.m., maybe you delay it. There's multiple different ways that you can participate in programs like this. And as I mentioned, when you sign up and enroll, Ryan, myself, we're happy to talk through that with you to make the best plan for when you're called upon. So in the next slide, I'm going to show you an example of a peak day and a screenshot of our platform called AMP. So this is your dashboard and landing screen when you would log into AMP. And in this example, this is a technical high school or a technical school, and they are able to use their building automation system. So AMP is able to connect to building automation if you have that at your control. And what AMP does is when that peak is predicted and called in that earlier email, what it will do is automatically send a signal to the building automation system to switch the HVAC into a different mode. So what it's doing in this example from June 24th of this summer was turning off or cycling off that HVAC at 1:45 p.m. as we called a window from 2 to 8 p.m. So as you can see in the orange line, that is the school's utility import, meaning what they are using from the local utility. That reduces from 1200 kW down to 300 kW. So they are reducing 900, 950 kW, which is a lot, every time that we're calling a peak in the hopes that they capture that peak for the year. So to date, so far, June 24th is our capacity peak because if you remember earlier in the summer, how hot it was for a few days in a row. And it was just early summer, and I believe it was in the 90s for days in a row. So this is a real live example of a customer and their platform. Then when the peak window ends at 8 p.m., that signal then talks to their building automation system and their HVAC to turn back on. And then probably at 9:15 p.m., they had it already pre-scheduled that no one's in the building, school's closed for the night, and it goes back into its cycled off phase. So as you can see, the orange line, again, is their utility. They reduced it for that hour time frame. And for that participation in an example, this would be their benefit for participating in that on a monthly, just to show you from a monthly viewpoint, and then an annual credit based on the capacity and transmission pricing from last year as an example. And our next example here is a customer that does not have any automation. It is a hotel and resort in the hospitality business. They are manually reducing load as they're able to participate in programs like this. So, like I said, depending on your plan and what you have available to switch off or to shift, that's you would implement your plan and hope to catch that peak. When you have access to this dashboard, the dashboard will update in near real time. It's not going to update instantaneously, but it updates in your real time, and you're able to see your own utility usage and consumption over here on the left-hand side, as well as your interval demand on the right-hand side. So it's also a really useful tool outside of the peak program as well. And the last piece I wanted to show you that as a snippet of our platform is an example of our PDR performance report. So you would have access to run your own report for your facility and how your participation looked for that specific time frame. So in this example, I have it circled in red, the peak for that month, like I said, that individual hour, and it's showing the customer's baseline demand, which the baseline is based on your average over the last 10 days, excluding other peak events. So it's getting a bigger picture as to where your facility was at over time. It takes into consideration, like I said, those peak events and some weather events as well. And then it's showing the customer's actual demand. So baseline is where they were set at, and their actual demand was lower, which is what we want. And it shows the participation and then the related payment along with that participation and what their potential credit could be. All right, so I know I went through a lot during that section, but biggest takeaways are understanding that we're calling peaks through our system a few times a month to try to capture transmission and or capacity peaks. They would be delivered to you via text or email, and you can participate and reduce load in a pre-planned way. And we're here to help you participate and put together your own reduction plan. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ryan, and he's going to talk about how you can sign up and enroll.
Thank you, Amanda. So now I'm going to talk about how your business can enroll in this great program. So let's first talk about eligibility and parameters. Any non-residential customer can participate in this program. So really any business is eligible. You have to have some way to reduce your load. That's the whole name of the game here is we want to help, our entire community by having customers reduce their load. As far as parameters, there's roughly about 3 to 5 events per month, possibly more in the winter and summer months, just because that's when peak usage is usually happening. Notifications are sent out via text and email. Amanda showed those, sort of push notifications that you might receive. And participation is totally voluntary. So, if you want to participate 4 out of the 5 for a given month, that's totally okay. If you want to just do 1, that's totally okay as well. Credits are going to be based on that performance and that participation. So the more you participate, the more likely you're going to receive, credits from RMLD. It's also important to note that customers must have a reduction of 100 kilowatts or 3% of their peak demand. So what this means is that if you can't reach the 100 kilowatt threshold, if you're a small customer, you also can be eligible if you reduce 3% of your baseline load. This, incentivizes people to have active participation, and include some of the smaller businesses where in the past the program might not have included them. This credit is applied annually, so you'll get a credit. We usually do it around June. And also with this program, you get access to Tangent AMP, which is the dashboard that Amanda showed. Yep. So again, how to enroll, the best way to do it would be to reach out to rebates@rmld.com to get started. You can register anytime throughout the year. It's kind of a rolling registering, and then once you're signed up, that's when you'll start participating. RMLD and Tangent will handle a lot of the back end stuff. There's a program participation form you're going to have to fill out, and we might suggest some load reduction strategies based on your business just to get you started. As far as integration, RMLD will be working with Tangent to kind of get the dashboard set up and everything, all the data that we need for your business. And then activation, once that happens, you'll start getting those alerts that Amanda showed. So next steps and more information, you can sign up today with that rebates@rmld.com email. You can meet with our team and we can give you a little bit more information if you'd like and go through your business. We have that data. And then once you do that, you'll be able to go live and start participating in this program. It's also important to note that following us on social media for programs like this, that's where we post and do a lot of our marketing for these programs. So it might be helpful to follow us on, whatever social media platform you like best. We also just recently released a few commercial programs and made some updates to a few as well. So we have two fairly new commercial rebates, a commercial custom rebate. This is for any sort of energy efficiency projects that you might be doing within your business. Feel free to reach out to us because you might be eligible for this program. And we also have a new rebate for new construction multifamily buildings. So if you're a real estate developer and have a new construction building of 5 or more metered units, please reach out to us and we'd love to, get that building to be all electric. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, we'll open it up to Q&A now.
Thank you both. That was some great information. I think we're caught up on all the questions. There wasn't anything still hanging out that the team and I couldn't manage. So I think we're good. I just really would encourage folks to reach out to rebates@rmld.com to get more information if they're interested. It's a great way with very low risk to be able to get involved and take control over some of your load as a commercial customer. Help the grid and help yourself as well, because you'll get benefits from participating both in the credits and in your energy usage. So it's really exciting. Thank you, Amanda and Ryan. Really great information. Right. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.